Welcome to FIREchat. My name's Rich Rice, and with me is Mark Pantak this evening. And Mark spoke at the Fire Focus event last night, and everybody really loved what he had to say, so we decided to bring him in on the podcast this morning. How you doing, Mark?
Fantastic. Appreciate the opportunity. Always.
Absolutely. It's good to have you. So you're all the way out here from Texas.
San Antonio, Texas. At this time, I've lived in Dallas and Houston and Corpus Christi and done deals in Austin. Done all actually, statewide from El Paso to Beaumont and up, down, left, every which way, all over Texas. Over 300 deals.
El Paso. I used to do. I used to go out to El Paso quite a bit in an old life, an old job, and I don't miss that job. But El Paso was cool.
I didn't know much about El Paso other than I was driving down the interstate on 10 on my way to California.
Yeah, I just remember like pulling in there and there's just all the houses and stuff like right across the freeway.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting town. So, it's, the title of the podcast is FIREchat. So, and FIRE to us means financial independence through real estate. So I kind of like to start off the podcast on, what does, like if you maybe think back to, a couple years, Mark, before you started doing, all this, what was your drive? Like, was it financial independence or was there something else? And what does financial independence mean to you?
I had the good fortune of having a mother who understood that I like to read. And so she found a little book about 16 years old. It was like a garage sale, estate sale, whatever, that she picked up for $1. It was the original guru mentor out there called William Nickerson from back in the 50s. Yeah. He wrote a book called How I Turned $1,000 to $1 million investing in real estate in my spare time. And I actually had an opportunity to meet William Nickerson.
Really?
While he was still alive back many, many moons ago. But having read that book, I thought, and part of the little backstory too, real quick, was that I was very interested in wildlife management. I was youngest licensed game bird breeder in Michigan, raising ringneck pheasants, bobwhite quail, churcher, partridge, mallard ducks at age 12.
Wow.
And licensed and building a business with that. And then I looked into, in general, that field and how it didn't really pay much. And so I thought, I don't know about that. But I was also very interested in psychology, and I used psychology-type principles of like they used in the Olympics. I was watching like the East Germans and like the Russians and how the small East German country was dominating. And so in sports, I learned how to program my mind through auto-suggestion like they did in the Olympics. And these shaped my initial future because I love the outdoors and nature and traveling. I also love psychology and love people and learning about all this kind of stuff. So that all was a background for my getting involved with real estate because I became interested in something called parapsychology. So I went to a conference at a university and thought, well, I'll write a book and I'll be like this guy. And the guy was like late 50s, bitter. And when I tried to ask him some questions, he said, there's more money for the university than there is for my research, even though I've written every paper and every book. And I'm thinking, I don't want to end up like that guy. And so the guy's telling me his problem is he can't get financing. So if I'm going to pursue something or whatever I want to pursue, I'm going to have to figure out finance. I'm going to have to figure out money. I'm going to have to figure out how to fund myself because he's complaining that he can't get funding even though he's got all this book and success and best-selling author and everything else. So I thought, I need to really look into that. And so many people don't. They don't really think about it. They're just thinking about the job and the career and the money and all that.
Yep.
So that, by 16, I was starting to read some of these books and Think and Grow Rich. And at that age, I was starting. When you're that young, there's so much you don't know. But like I mentioned last night, I had a 14-year-old kid in my class whose father brought him, and he did a deal in his first 90 days, made $14,000 at age 14. And so mindset's the number one thing that early on, and then I applied that because I was a lousy runner. I was running over 12 minutes, and I got under 10 minutes in the school record. But it was so much of the mental programming, and then I went on to apply that in my career, and I've applied that in real estate, and I've helped so many people literally double and triple their income. But the biggest obstacle was themselves and their own thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're, to be able to come to that young, is something that, I don't think a lot of us get that. I stumbled upon Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like 27, but 16 would have been better. I mean, I'm glad it happened at 27 and not 67. But,
Absolutely.
So you initially like it sounds like you just wanted the freedom to like be able to pursue and learn like the whatever interested you. Or
Well, I've been reading these various books, and so I was like, a fan of this guy who'd written this book and was speaking at this university at this lecture and everything about this kind of stuff, and I was so interested in it, and I had sort of him up on a pedestal in a way. So when I got reality of who he was as a human being and where he was and everything else, that really impacted me, and it made me step back and start looking more at my own father, at his friends, at anybody I knew who was older and where they were in their life, and how they had a mortgage and how they had a car payment and how they had credit card debt and how they had a wife and kids and family and all these expenses. And I thought to myself, I need to figure out this stuff early.
Yeah.
I need to figure out how to get why I don't have to have a job. How in the world? I mean, and so I'm in college and everybody else is focusing on having a career, and I'm focusing on, maybe I can buy enough real estate so I don't have to work anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like in college. And I had a class that was on real estate finance in college, and I put together this paper to show how we could make 36% return. I got like a B+ on the paper. But my dad, having grown up in the Depression, his response was, "Are you crazy? You know what's going to happen? If you buy a piece of real estate at school and think you're going to rent out these other college kids, it's going to be wintertime in Michigan, and the furnace is going to fail, and the pipes are going to freeze, and it's going to be a disaster, and you're going to flunk out of school." And any possible negative, pessimistic thing that could possibly happen, that was my father, my entire life. So one of the first things I realized as a result of all that and my dreams is you got to be careful who you tell your dreams to.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to tell friends and family or people who you think would want to support you in your dreams and aspirations, and often it's the opposite. And that's part of the thing, is that a lot of people have a need for approval. And so part of the thing I did early on is I graduated on a Saturday, left on a Sunday, was in Dallas, Texas on Monday. I knew I needed to get I use the H word, the heck away from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's and what you just said is so true for so many people that I mean, that's why we have the club, and REIAs and organizations like us around the country is to be that like support, because you're not crazy. Like there's people out there that are doing this every day, and you, like you said, like be careful who you tell your dreams to. That's big. I had a one of my cousins years ago. He was a little lost in like what he wanted to do, and like every idea he got in his head, he would just go telling everybody. And then, I kind of watched it, like people would like tell him like why that was, why it wasn't going to work, or, and I'm guilty of it. I've definitely done that, either to myself or other people, like, and my brother had this idea to do like this, he looked like Jesus for a while. Like my brother just has this like Middle Eastern kind of look, and he had this long hair, and I swear he dressed up like Jesus as like Halloween one year, and he looked. I mean, like we did a photo shoot and everything. It was funny, but he had this idea to like do this like hot dog cart, and he was going to call it Hot Dog Jesus, and just sell hot dogs on like $6 on the side of the road, in LA, and like we all like thought it was a great idea, but we kind of, looking back, like we all pounced on him, and was like, well, you got to get a permit, and you got to do this, and we didn't mean to. We were like trying to help, but like that pessimist, like kind of like why it's not going to work. Well,
it's also, the intention is to protect from loss and from harm and from disappointment, and well-meaning friends and family. Well, you could lose money. And all these bad things could happen, and there's all the things you don't know, and all the steps. And it's like, well, yeah, but the guy who created Facebook, he probably didn't know how to create Facebook or Amazon, or you look at any great success story, they failed their way to success. They didn't know how to do it. They had to figure it out as you go. That's the biggest thing I've seen. I was such a highly analytical person when I first started, and so many people are. Then I come across these engineers and IT and all these kind of guys, and it's like, well, wait a minute, I can't do anything until I know everything.
Yeah.
And I was practically that bad. When I first finally joined a REIA group back in Dallas, Texas, I remember thinking, the more I learned, the more like I was overwhelmed about there's so much to learn. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to learn about contracting, and maybe I should get my GC license, and I need to learn about inspecting. Maybe I should get my inspector license. Maybe I should get my real estate license and
learn how to mix drywall mud before you can fit the house.
Oh yeah, I can't. I'll have to do it myself, and all these crazy thoughts. And then finally I had someone who's experienced like us who said to me, What are you talking about? That's crazy. No, you've got to be the guy who hires all the other people who do that for you. And this was a revelation. I don't have to know everything. No, you hire the people. Haven't you noticed? I mean, the people who have these big companies. I mean, the guy at Facebook, the guy at all these different companies, they don't do everything. They figure out how to find and hire the people who do all that stuff for them. And that's the mindset of a business owner versus the solo entrepreneur. And I think that's the biggest problem I see in the real estate business is so many people have this fierce independent type, I want to do it myself.
Yeah.
And then you're talking to them, it's like, where you been? Well, I was up till midnight after my job painting because I had to do the painting because nobody else could do it. You couldn't find a painter for $15 to $25 an hour. Well, yeah, that costs money, but and it's like this mindset thing where they're stuck. And I say to people all the time, well, why don't you just come to the local REIA and learn how to figure out how to do it right from people who are doing it? And we don't lift a paintbrush or a hammer or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, my tool, at least used to be before technology, a pen and a checkbook and my phone and computer. And my tool is my mind and my technology to get the right people there and verify it's getting done correctly and then pay them. That's it. If you're doing all these other things, in my opinion, you could be doing it wrong. Now, maybe when you're starting out and bootstrapping it your very first time, but you need to get away from that crap as fast as you can. And that includes even putting out signs and, anything. I mean, one of the things I learned from somebody much smarter than me, much more wealthy than me, they said, here's the question you need to wake up and ask yourself every day. Who is the person best suited to do this job other than me?
Yeah.
And so I got to keep that like on a
the
card.
best person other than you?
Yeah, who's the best person best suited to do this job other than me? Because like tile work, I mean, I don't know if you've tried laying tile before, but it's back breaking and the knees got to have pads and everything else. And once was enough for me. Even like I had another guy, we were just starting out and broke and struggling and everything, but we went ahead because we want to save money, right? The poverty struggle thing, we got to save money. So we're going door to door in the Texas sun in July, and I don't think it was quite 100 degrees, but it was close enough. And we spent the whole day sort of racing each other. He's on that side of the street, I'm on this side of the street with our tape and our little flyer going door to door for like 8 hours in one day in the July Texas sun. I think it almost killed me. And that was when I was young and broke and stupid back then. And I said, I think once is enough. I'm going to try a one-time learner on this.
Yeah.
I could pay somebody else a very small amount of money. I'd be better off doing something that pays me more and then paying them. And I just see that all the time. The importance of you got to get around the right people who are doing it successfully and shorten your learning curve. And that's why I'm fanatical about promoting a REIA group and a good REIA group that provides so much value.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned the trying to do it all yourself. And I remember I used to carry, they're sitting over there now because now I learned how to like hire out for the flips and all the real estate stuff. But then when it comes to the club, I'm stuck in that doing it myself thing and trying to, be like, okay, like we can let other people do it. But, and it's a funding thing also. But, anyways, I remember carrying all my tools around and at one point I think I was fed up with cleaners. So I was just like, I'm just going to clean it myself. And I think I did 3 flips where I cleaned the entire house by myself. It took me, hours.
Right.
I was there until midnight, the day before a photo shoot. And it only took me like a couple times of doing that where I was like, never mind, I'm just going to train the cleaners better.
Exactly. Well, and any kind of business, the big thing I see with a lot of new people is they treat this as a hobby instead of a business. And, any kind of business, I mean, if you're going to have 2 McDonald's, you can't be both places. And the other thing I say to people all the time, do you think the owner of the McDonald's works there? When you go in, is he the manager? No, he hired a manager. So the whole model is how can we put the systems and the team and the people in place? So I say there's only 3 things you need to learn because there's all these things it looks like you need to learn. I say the number 1 thing is mastering deal flow and know how to recognize a good deal and make decisions.
Quickly,
But you can even eventually hire and delegate an acquisition person who does that for you. But the deal flow and the leads are the first number one thing, because that equals money and cash. Even if you're just going to flip it, wholesale it, whatever you're going to do at first, the number three on the other end here is the raising capital. And I have people say to me all the time, well, I don't need to raise capital. No, you're already behind. Day one, you need to be immediately building those network of relationships and raising that capital. And as fast as you do a deal and document that deal, you need to be showing the other people that you know in your network, look at the deal I just did. Imagine the money you could have made if you would have helped fund that and get that on early. And then so now you got three, which is the money and the deals. And then the middle, putting it all together, are the systems, the processes, the team. And the more you can be thinking that early on, you're thinking now as a business owner. And that's where Kiyosaki had a great influence on me, because even though I had a degree in finance, and even though I was a college graduate, and even though I'd started some small businesses, I didn't get it. I was the different, the four quadrants of the cash flow quadrant. I was like the E or the S quadrant, and I didn't know how to get over to the B and the I quadrant. And so to me, as good as cash flow, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is an excellent book I recommend to everybody all the time, but I believe Cash Flow Quadrant is an even better book from the mindset of now beginning to go to the next level. And then most people don't even know about his third book, which probably made the most impact, which is called Retire Young, Retire Rich, because we've all heard the term leverage, we've all heard the term cash flow, but most people don't understand it. And how you know they don't understand it is you say, well, show me your portfolio. How are you using leverage and cash flow? And sometimes people are over leveraged in places, especially like California. It's easy to be over leveraged and not have the cash flow. And we're talking to a lady right now who's got a property in Belize. And so she bought this property. She's got her accounting degree. She worked at the bank. The bank where she worked financed her, but she bought it where the rent is $900 and the payment is $1,300. And she's trying to sell this as an investment.
Yeah, and you're like, okay.
$400 a month negative cash flow. So I'm working just for fun because it's another country and learning. And I got one of my clients I'm working with. He's dual citizenship, U.S. and Belizean. So I said, well, for fun, we'll learn something about it. And I like Central America and the Caribbean and all that kind of stuff. So let's just pursue it. We don't expect anything, but can we turn this into a subject to deal? Can we do a loan modification? Can we, what can we do? I mean, it's a completely different country, different laws, but the process is always fundamentally the same.
Yeah.
Who do you need to talk to and get permission as needed and what's possible? But the big picture, she had appraisal. She had an appraisal done on the property for about 300,000 Belizean, which is half of that is U.S. about 150. But the debt on it's like 88, and that's U.S. 44. So, well, if it's worth 150 and 44, that on the surface, okay, it's got my attention as a starting place. It's a brand new house she had built. So I'm always looking at, I don't want to waste too much time, but can I get outside my comfort zone and try new things and test the water with low risk?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. So
where, going back to the three things you mentioned.
Yeah, the three things.
Where I think, are you familiar with like I'm sure you are, the dreamer, the starter, the estate builder, the enders, for like dreamers and starters, I guess, the 1 and 3 probably makes a lot of sense. But for the more of the estate builders, like that 2, that second part you said, like, where does that line, I guess, what would your advice be for them? Like
yeah, I have people all the time that say, oh, you ought to do this and this and build this company and everything else. And I go, I'm past that. I'm 65 now. I'm going to stay active. I'm actually working on a 40-year plan because I'm studying stuff like people in the blue zones and how people live fully functionally and healthily and everything else to 100 plus. And so I'm going for it. And so part of the key of, there's a thing in Japanese called Igaki hour or something like that. I'm not pronouncing it quite right, but in the 5 places on the planet, the blue zone where they live long, one is Okinawa. So part of my goal for the next 5 years is I want to go visit and potentially live in these 5 places on the planet where people live exceptionally long and have my own experience of interacting with these people and the mindset and things like that, which I think in part the adventure would help extend my own life and the healthy everything. But the thing is, I see so many people, they're lacking purpose. And their only purpose is get an education so you can get a job, so you can have a spouse, so you can have a family, so you can have kids, so you can have debts, so you can have a mortgage. And you get in this 40-year trap, and people just fall right down that funnel very quickly, not thinking there's any other options, because you look at your parents, that's what your parents did, and that's what their parents did. And it's just like, but I see so many young people, I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos right now, where it's like, I had one that they were in a group, a Facebook group that was about buying tax liens and tax deeds. And I got talking to them. It's a single woman. And then turns out she was in Egypt. And turns out she's like, I don't know, 22 or 25, whatever it is. And she just decided, you know what? Well, I don't have high overhead. I need to just go and do it.
Yeah,
so she's traveling the world, and she's got a YouTube channel. A lot of people are doing that and being digital nomad and all this kind of stuff. So the interesting thing is you could even do that with real estate once you get to a certain point. So the most important thing that I've been learning, I'm actually once again in a course based on Think and Grow Rich, but this course is based on not just reading it, not just skimming it, not even just studying it, but implementing the ideas and principles taught in that fantastic classic book. And so there's a whole group I'm in that's like a 12-week group that we're going through each chapter, and we're really working to internalize and apply and implement, really internalize the principles. And so many people don't do that. So many people do not have a definite major purpose. And so I think that when you get real clear on your definite major purpose, that changes everything, and that actually accelerates your success in your life, and so many doors open. Things, some people perceive it almost magical, the like law of attraction, different things like that. But when you know what you want and you write it down and you're very clear about it, your mind goes to work and starts seeing things that it wouldn't normally see.
Yeah.
But most people are like, squirrel, shiny object. They bounce from thing to thing. They get in real estate and they go, oh, I joined this local real estate, and this week we got a thing on mobile homes, and next week we got a thing on apartments, and next thing we got a thing on paper. Next thing I remember the first 2 years I went going around in circles, and finally I someone like you or like Evan, and they said, find somebody who's successful, who's done and gotten it. He did it in 5 years. And so I, asked him, he said, sure, we meet at Mama's Cafe, a little hole in the wall. And he was in South Dallas, an area called Oak Cliff that was mixed and up and coming. But he'd bought properties as cheap as $5,000 or $10,000. And he'd replace his $60,000 a year job at Foley's department store, which is like, Macy's or JCPenney type thing. And he did it in 5 years. So I said, well, okay, I need to go and have lunch with this guy and ask him how to do it and what he did. And he's the one who originally taught me the 100 house rule. And he's originally who said, we're sitting there, and he says to me, so Mark, let me ask you, I've seen you around, but you've been around 2 years now. Yeah. Have you done any deals yet? No. Why not? I'm not ready yet.
Wait. You haven't figured out how to mix drywall yet.
Yeah. 2 years and you're not ready yet. I mean, what do you specialize in? And I go, specialize in? And he says, yeah, like mobile homes or like apartments or like houses or like rehabbing, foreclosure. There's all these different things. What do you specialize in? And I thought for a moment, and I said, being a seminar junkie and buying courses and trying to learn and trying to figure it out for 2 years. I'm like, and I see a lot of people in that same boat, but I was one of these analytical people who it's like, I can't do anything. I can't pull the trigger
figure it all out first.
Until I figured it all out first, because I was so programmed and I had so much fear about making a mistake. And what I learned was making mistakes is the path. Failing is the path. And so if I could find a balance there of, the most important thing I needed to learn is figure out how to pull the trigger, fire, ready, fire, aim. And so, so what's that need to do? I need how to fill out a contract. What do I need to put in the contract? And once I could do that, and it's like, I need to make an offer. I need to get the contract. And he sat there down with me and he said, in the last 90 days, how many sellers or how many realtors or how many people have you talked to about buying a property? None. And how many offers have you made in the last 90 days? None. And so let me get this straight. So you're a football player on the sidelines watching the game. You're the water boy. Oh my God. I never thought about it like that. Yeah. So that until you get on the field, and on the field is you're on the phone talking to somebody, you're door knocking, you're until you're interacting, you're not on the field. If you're not touching the ball, you're not a football player. If you're not, you got to get on the field. And I see so many people, they're so afraid of making a mistake and I got to know everything. And it's like, no, it's the opposite. You learn by doing.
Yeah, and we that was something we just finished up our first cohort of we called it the Fire Fast boot camp, and and we had about 25 people that were all club members, and put them kind of through this 6 week.
Fantastic.
Get something under contract in 6 weeks kind of thing. And the whole, the thing that just kept getting repeated over and over again was you got to do it. Like you got to get out there and make those offers and call everybody and it's just, this is a contact sport, kind of thing, like and there's no, but people are, well, I don't know, like how to, where am I going to get the rehab money? I don't know how much it's going to cost, or, it's like, do it by square foot and just make offers. Like just get on the phone and make offers.
Well, and what I say too is, just make your best guess. And if it's even close, plus on top of that, you got this environment here where you can bring things, but you need to pick up your speed. You need to increase your capacity, and your capacity needs to you can do less faster. So it's like, okay, how quickly? Well, the first time you're trying to evaluate this deal, it takes you an hour. Some people 3 days. It's ridiculous, but it's like, okay, it's an hour of agonizing to know. And so then we get it down to 15 minutes, and then we get it down to 5 minutes. And it's like, if you've got the fundamentals there, it's like, what's the ARV? What's the rehab? What's the right number? And like, okay, if it's all cash, a hard money lender, there's a hard money lender formula, 70% less repairs. And it's like, so a $200,000 house, if you could find that here, you can find them still in Texas.
But you still find them here.
$200,000 house, I'm going to get it for $100,000. And most of the time it's going to be darn close to working. And so ready, fire, aim, boom, let's get it under contract. Because I also say to people too, well, did you ask the realtor or the homeowner what their estimate of repairs was? Did you ask them, how did you arrive at that price? And did you ask them, ask the even listing agent. So you've been an agent for 5 years, and you've seen many houses like this before. If I was to come in and buy this house through you, and you got the commission, and I fixed it up like it needs to be fixed, and I did everything right, and I came back, even not immediately, but let's say 2, 3, 5 years from now, and I said to you, hey, I really liked how you treated me. Would you come back and list it? I suspect that agent would say, for sure, I'll list it again. I just need to know now, if I was to do all this remodeling, with no expectation the prices go up or down or sideways, they just stay the same. If everything's equal, stays the same, what would you list this property for, all fixed and renovated, 5 years from now? Since you've been an agent for 5 years, and you probably should know. And if you get an agent with any sense, now I don't just trust one agent, I ask 2 or 3, preferably that specialize in that area. But step number 1, how fast can I know that value? And that's where my first mentor, he taught me the 100 house rule, which was simply, okay, where's the house? You go 5 blocks in any direction, and every single house that's for sale, that's for rent, for the realtor, talk to all those people and ask them, and then figure out a fundamental price per square foot. And it's like, oh, in Texas, for example, they're going for $100 a square foot. And it's 200,000 square feet, or 2,000 square feet, $100 a square foot, that's 200,000. How long did that take? Seconds. And so really, as a professional, you can get that level where regarding your ARV, your rehab, your everything, and I can go pretty quick, okay, I think it's 200,000. If I can get this under for 90, that's a wholesale price. And one of my options is I could wholesale it to Rich.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think, the more you do that, especially in the more when you get better running these numbers and everything like that, it's like, you almost don't even have to run it anymore. Like you see the,
it becomes
you just
obvious.
Like it's like, did you ever see that movie, like A Beautiful Mind, with where he's got all the numbers rolling around? I don't think I'm on that level, but you start to you can just see it real quick. And then the faster you can act and react to the data that's being thrown at you.
And if it's a deal, you have to be decisive, and you have to recognize it, and you have to act immediately.
Yeah, there's no time to get somebody, we had something under contract that we were walking away from, and, we sent kind of feelers out, and somebody contacted me, and they're like, and I know in my head, I'm like, dude, I got 24 hours to make a decision on this. Otherwise I got to walk away. Like we've already sat on it too long. And, he's asking me like, well, when can I have like my home inspector scheduled? And I was like, look, I'll keep something else, I'll keep an eye out for you, but like not this one, like where you don't need enough time.
Exactly.
And, how do you do like for, new people? We generally do like a per square foot thing on rehab. What do you teach people?
Well, basically what I say is, there are these things online that you can do, but I learned old school that, okay, what does it need? And over the phone, I always say over the phone, ask the realtor, ask the homeowner, ask whoever, well, how did you arrive at your current existing asking price? Now, a lot of times it's off, but I say, okay, let me go through this, and I got a little sheet, my little cheat sheet, and we started out in Texas. We have a lot of foundation problems, so I say, well, how's the foundation? Sometimes, if they're not familiar, they'll say, what do you mean? I say, well, do any of the doors stick? Are there any cracks? Is can you open and close window? Oh, well, there's a little bit of that, but that's only one section of the house. Well, based on my year's experience, I know, okay,
one section.
yeah, right, and so basically, I got my checklist, and there's the 5 foundational of, there's the foundation, then you go roof. And I see people fix the roof and they didn't fix the foundation. It's like, well, you need to learn a little basics there. Always do the foundation first. And then, of course, we got electrical, plumbing, HVAC. We got the 5 major systems. And in the old days, that used to be $5,000 to $7,000 in Texas, doing it at a wholesale price. Now, you're going to get a quote.
For each of those?
Each.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Each. So, I had one house that was not subject to, it was a short sale. It was a short sale situation. The bank was owed like $100,000. And, I immediately made an offer on it for like 60, knowing that was way too high, but at least it would bring everything to a screeching halt. And very few people are going to pursue a short sale. But it was a good brick 3.2, 1,500 square feet. All the basic fundamentals that we're looking for were there. But you could literally look through the window and see where the insulation had all come down from the plumbing freezing, and just between, and the house was vacant and vandalized, and some kids had gotten through one of the windows, and there was graffiti all over the walls, and walls kicked out, and all this other kind of thing. So I could figure out, and then the electricity was quasi on, not officially, but circumvented type thing.
Wired.
Yeah, and so, that's interesting. We can get the electricity on unofficially, and so then I had my HVAC guy come in, and we went ahead and we had checked that system out, because that would be a major one, because it's an older house. So I did everything I can stealth in terms of knowing, and then the bank, because they don't know, and I'm talking to I had the lady who used to work at the title company and had the relationship with the bank president refer me up. Always start at the top. So the bank president, of course, he didn't want to deal with this, but now I'm being referred from the bank president to his senior legal counsel, who's been instructed to do this. And I said, well, the thing required that we could inspect the property and we could do this and everything else. And it's like, well, that's not going to happen. I go, okay, well, then there's no way you could pay 60. We'll pay 30. What? Oh, wait a minute. The bank was thinking, my $100,000 loan, I'm going to get 60 at least. You're dropping to 30. Well, why is that?
Want me to look at it.
I say, well, have you seen the property? Well, no. Has anybody shown you photos of the property? Well, no. Well, just looking through the windows, you can see the plumbing shot. It's frozen. Oh, I didn't know that. And did you know that it needed a roof? Well, no, I didn't know that. Did you know it needed foundation repair? Well, no, I didn't know that. And so I said, now each of these systems, that's another $30,000. I mean, when you add it all up pretty easily. So 30. Well, I think we ended up buying it for 36 or 38, something like that. But these fundamentals, and I say, when brand new people, how do I learn it? I say, find a wholesaler or find a realtor who specializes, and it's maybe a HUD or a foreclosed property, but just start looking at properties and take your little sheet and start taking photos and writing down and making your best estimate. And then you go back to somebody who's got experience and you compare it with them, or even if you're a new wholesaler, bring it to somebody like us with experience and then ask what our numbers are. And if we can ideally wholesale it to us, then you're going to learn by doing. That the number one thing I say is, instead of theory, instead of just in the classroom's good as a starting place, but get out in the field and look at houses that a wholesaler has under contract, and then eventually become that wholesaler. And then you'll get feedback. I say, you shouldn't probably rehab your first house. They go, what do you mean? I say, well, do you have cash reserves? They go, cash reserves, what's that? And I say, well,
absolutely.
There's this thing called Murphy, your partner, and things can happen and will happen. And there's these things the contractors will educate you on called hidden conditions. Now, I avoid hidden conditions because I get permission in my contract. I'm going to tear that wall open and see what the hidden conditions are. There's termites there. I want to know that before I close. So I'm very assertive and very aggressive on how can I minimize my risk. And the thing I say, find an experienced person, but you got to say what you do what you say, don't be a flake. You got one chance. It's like a job interview. And you find experienced people, what's the value you're going to bring? Now, one value could be a deal, but I see so many people, they wouldn't know a deal if it hit them across the head. Oh, I talked to the realtor and this house is $200,000. Okay. And it's a foreclosure, so it's a good deal automatically. Okay. And what's the price? 160. And what's the rehab? 40. Oh, wait. I have conversations with realtors like this all the time. So the house is 160 and it's worth 200, and if I put 40 into it, it'd be worth. Why don't I just buy a brand new house that's already rehabbed and get that at a discount? But I mean, this is normal conversation out there with experienced realtors. I had just one recently. We're buying
investor-friendly.
Investor-friendly realtors. We're buying an apartment complex, and I talked to, and just ballpark numbers. I have a conversation with this experienced broker who's got this, listing on this apartment complex, and it's like, well, they're, asking $10 million. I go, okay, and I go, but. When I'm doing my underwriting on this, it looks like it would need $1 million worth of rehab in order to be worth the $10 million. And then after I rehabbed it, I could raise the rents to have the cash flow, to have the net operating income. And it's like, so reverse engineering is back. I mean, the most I could afford to pay is 7. Well, but they want 10.
Yeah, they need 10.
Yeah.
Or like they need 10 because we just went through this. Yeah. Like they need to, okay, well, it's what the house can support. Or what the property.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a house or a note or an apartment
these are the numbers.
Commercial. Or, it doesn't matter what it is. So many even experienced real estate agents and brokers, they're like, but that's not reality. It won't appraise.
Yeah.
Oh, well, but that's what the seller wants. And you just got to, understand this is normal insanity out there in the marketplace. And you just go, now, you should follow up because I've seen sometimes where it's overpriced all the time. And then eventually, whatever happened to that broker you had it listed with? Well, he couldn't get anything done. So I had to take it on myself. And so where you're at now, 7.5. Oh, well, we're getting close. And things happen like this. The big mistake I see new people do is they get discouraged too easily. And they think it's going to be easy. And it's like, well, I'm just going to go out in the first one. I'm going to get this incredible deal. And people are just going to roll over and give me all their equity and make all this profit. And it's going to be, well, I watched this reality TV show. It looks so easy. Yeah, you saw 30 days worth of stuff in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
One of my rules as I, silence this thing and I keep forgetting to do it myself. One thing you said that in there that was really quick, with the inspection part, you said you have a clause in your inspection that, and this is just you like putting your own private contract, not like MLS stuff or, as an agent, but just that you put in there, there was something in there that you mentioned, a very like intense inspection where you like rip down a wall. And
right.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So basically, depending on the property you're doing, it's so crazy to me because I don't even own a TV. I want to avoid TV, but you still got the internet and you still got, so I can get little snippets of this reality TV show of, I saw one like in Chicago. And it's like, okay, it's Chicago. It's an old property, 50 years old. Oh, after we closed, we discovered that the plumbing needs to be replaced. Excuse me? How's this guy got a reality TV show? Well, because if he actually knew what he was doing, it would be boring and people would turn the channel. Yeah. So you got to have drama.
Yep. It's like, no, there's the...
And people have... under the floor. Yeah, well, It's like, we discovered it's got cast iron plumbing after we closed. It's like, you couldn't figure that out before you closed? I mean, so, it's got aluminum wiring and we're going to have to tear out all the wiring and tear open all the walls and it's going to cost an extra $8,000 over budget. It's like, this is a surprise. So
you shouldn't be that surprised.
And so in Texas, I'm watching for, there's a water leak. There's these little creatures that love wet wood called termites. Now, you may not have them quite as bad here, but we have
the flying kind here.
They're just
versus
wonderful.
The ground ones.
Swarming. Yeah. Well, we've got these special kind. They're so much fun. There's one breed that does the lower level, and there's a different breed that does the higher level. Yeah. And then when you got the both, you now have to tent the property. And even though the property looks perfect, if you have a buyer who finds the right termite inspector who's looking for that and finds a sign of that, now it's thousands of dollars, and you got the special poison so nobody could be in there for days, but you got to put this thing in and it just kills everything. But, and it costs, it's not free. And so I had a house one time like that. But most of the time, I'm like looking for signs of anything, especially if there's any kind of water damage. Well, we don't know, but like it's up there. I go in the attic and I look around, and then it's down there. Funny how water does that. It goes from up there to down here, and it went down here.
Who knew?
And I'll never forget. I had this one house I bought. The lady, it was a probate estate type situation. The house was all boarded up. You didn't have any light inside, no electricity on, no power on. And I found out from a neighbor later, he'd had 100 dogs in that house. 100.
Yeah.
And it had hardwood floors. You can imagine what those dogs did on that hardwood floor. And I had this fantasy, I was still learning, that I was somehow going to salvage any of those hardwood floors at all.
Just sand it down.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I literally met the inspector there who was I had to hard my lender on this deal. So I met the inspector, and the stench was so bad that both I and the inspector, like our eyes were practically bleeding and tearing.
I can smell the smell in my nose.
You can smell it. Now you've been there. And we were like gagging, and we could not get in and out and inspect that fast enough. So we failed to notice all the paneling that could have been lifted. And I did, after I closed the house and everything else, I said, well, let's look what's behind that paneling. Guess what was behind that paneling?
No insulation.
Former 2x4s that had been eaten away, the whole freaking wall and the corner even. I mean, and we had rats the size of footballs that were in the wall. So there were fleas, there were rats, there were termites. This entire wall we had to lift up and replace with a new 2x4 of walls.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was an add-on. So, but it had that paneling. So I say to people all the time, hey, if there's paneling and you can pull back a corner of that paneling easy enough, go take a look. But you just got to be proactive all the time.
Course.
You got to be anticipating anything. And sometimes the only way you learn is by experience. But if you get somebody on your team who's got experience, we're going to look around and say, did you look behind that paneling? Well, I can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? It's easy. You pull it here, and look and, put it right back. So,
and pretty, I guess, standard inspection clause in there that obviously you go in, you can inspect anything you want. I thought you had said that you have put like a special clause in there that's like, if I want to blow the wall open and see what's behind there, like I was like, damn.
So when I've literally gone and we did an initial contract and it's subject to inspection, and so depending on but sometimes I've seen photos and it looked like there was black mold, and so. What's behind that black mold? How long has it been leaking? How bad is it? So,
surface,
and especially you do fire damage. I don't know if you've ever done a fire damage property, but I learned very quickly. I
usually wholesale those.
Exactly. Well, that's the smart thing to do. That's why I tell brand new people you should wholesale those if you can. And especially if they got paid off and it's free and clear now and all that kind of stuff, and the value might be in the land. But sometimes it's fire damaged and it was just in the kitchen. It was just the rest of the house is like perfect. It's like, this was a fire damaged house. Where's the fire? Oh, it's over there in the kitchen. Everything else is fine. It's amazing. So people tend to prejudge and react. I say you got to get the emotion out, and you just go, put it in our contract and have an inspection period and go check it out. And even on fire damaged house, you'd be surprised sometimes. So the bottom line is, there's times, especially like a fire damaged house, the fire is not the biggest thing. It's the water and the smoke. And the water and smoke damage, those are not always easy to see. So you do one fire damaged house, you'll learn a lot about the stuff you missed if you didn't have somebody on your team. So that's the thing, the more you get into rehab stuff. But some of my favorite stuff doesn't require any rehab at all. My favorite stuff is the finance. And I remember reading sometime, or however I heard it, that Ford Motor Company makes more money financing cars than they do manufacturing cars.
I heard that too.
And so my big push, especially with where we're at the market cycle, is like, rehab opportunities are always going to be there. And some people cut their teeth on that. But the challenge is, depending on how you go about it, it's a job. And you got to get the mindset to where you transition from, I need the next paycheck, And I've had people say, yeah, but I just wholesale and rehab because I don't like dealing with tenants. But you like dealing with contractors? And so I say, well, what if there was a way that you didn't have to deal with contractors, you didn't have to deal with tenants, you didn't have to deal with either one? Nah, this is some kind of MLM scam or something, right? And I said,
too good to be true.
Too good. Anytime it's too good to be true. But I say, you could learn how to be a passive investor in an apartment complex. You could learn how to be a passive investor in notes. You could be a private lender. You could learn how to do joint ventures. There's lots of ways. There's people out there who are really good at dealing with contractors, are really good at dealing with tenants, are really good at dealing with the things that you don't want to deal with. Because the biggest obstacle I see people all the time, they think they have to do everything and all these things. And I had a class one time in Houston. I was a board member of the biggest REIA there. And I was teaching this class, and I had a little stair step on the board. And I did the stair step. I said, okay, now I start here below ground level. I was a bird dog, and I had no money, no clue, no anything. And then I worked my way up to a wholesaler, then I worked my way up to a rehabber, and then I worked my way up to a landlord, and I worked my way up to a private lender, and I worked my way up to an apartment investor. So I just step by step over time worked my way up. And then this one guy said, well, wait a minute. So you're saying if I got $500,000 cash, I don't have to start over here? I can start here at the end? Yeah, we need to talk.
Yeah.
And so, there's people that they don't realize the different options depending on what you bring. And if you got a good job and you got good credit, but you don't have time, you can learn how to join. And I don't like the word partnership as much. You got to be very careful because I see so many partnerships go bad. But a joint venture done correctly, it's performance-based. It's execution-based. And like I was being a private lender on a Florida deal one time, and Florida has got laws where the foreclosure process is long. It's a judicial foreclosure. Texas has got non-judicial foreclosure, and they're 21 days, really fast. So I love Texas. But this Florida deal was just looking too good. So I said to the guy, he didn't have the cash reserves. He was new. And, I'll check all the boxes of why not to loan this guy money. And I said, the only way I'll make this loan is I buy the house and then you lease option it from me. And if you perform and you rehab the house and you then execute on your option, you do everything you promised to do, you'll make a profit. If you screw up and you lie and cheat and steal and have all kind of excuses, I own the house. I don't have to. You just
and anything you put in it.
Yeah, and so the time that runs out, and I'm going to make sure there's a cash reserve so I can fix your mess. Based on my experience, that's likely to happen. But there's so many different ways to do real estate. And the first thing I say is get involved with your local REIA, start meeting experienced people like you and the leaders. And I tell people all the time, they say, what should I do? Join your local REIA, volunteer, and as a volunteer, you become visible. Stop being invisible and make a commitment to the time to get involved so everybody who's a doer knows who you are, and now you'll elevate yourself to get to the next level. And that's what I did many years ago. I said, I need to become a volunteer. And then I worked my way up and I was on the board of directors.
Say that part again into the camera.
Yeah, say that part in the camera. So one of the most important, valuable mutual exchanges is REIA groups need good volunteers who are trustworthy, who say what they do what they say, because the leaders who have the experience, who have the money, who have the expertise, who can help you, you help them, they help you. There's this thing called scratch each other's back. And so basically what I learned early on was become a member and become a volunteer and just give and just do. And next thing you know, hey, I was wondering, could you give me 5 minutes to take a look at this deal? Well, for you,
yeah, absolutely.
I got this new person that just showed up and they paid $25 and they expect me to give them all their lenders and contractors. And they're brand new and they gave me $25 and they expect to get what I've taken years and thousands of dollars. And yeah, I paid you $25. Just give me everything that you got. No, sorry. That's not quite how it works here. Well, I've been here for 3 months now, and I'm showing up at every event, and I'm here early, and how can I help? And yeah, what can I do? How can I help you?
Yeah.
I mean, it should be basic common sense, but it's amazing in our society and culture today with the Facebook reality. It's very uncommon.
Yeah. And I mean, our biggest, for so long, I was hesitant about volunteers because, I ran a not a REIA, but a different club for a different purpose years ago. And it was the reliability part. And that big part that you mentioned is like being trustworthy and being dependable and showing up when you say you're going to do it, because, a lot of times you're either in a vital role for check-in or, whatever. And if we think we have that covered, and then you just say, oops, sorry, I can't make it tonight. Like, or somebody to pick up the food, or there's a lot of moving parts.
Well, and it's like dealing with contractors too, because anytime I got new people and I say, you need to have me part of the team. Well, why? I got the money, I got the this, I got the that. I go, no. you need how many contractors are you interviewing? Well, just one. The realtor said this one guy was a good
that showed up.
Yeah. And I go, no. You could interview, depending on the size of the rehab, at least 3 contractors. And every time with each contractor, don't just tell them what you want. Have them point out to you what they're seeing with their years of experience, and you'll pick up, like one contractor say, what are you going to do about that? The 2 other contractors didn't say anything, but this is this guy's area of expertise. There's so much you can learn interviewing contractors, but getting good at it. And I say, start out having me be there. And so the point being of all this is that I always say have more than you need. So I tell the different contractors now, I even have them show up at the same time sometimes. I say, I'm being honest and upfront with you that it's an interview process, and I'm looking not for the cheapest, not for the, I'm looking for someone in the middle that understands pricing. And I literally say, okay, I need to know what's it going to cost to reframe that door and do all this kind of stuff. I can do it for $500. I go, $500, that sounds a little low. Give me your breakdown. And it's like, no, it should be $700. But it's amazing how often I got to teach contractors their own business because they're just desperately trying to get the business and underbidding. And then they come back and it's like, oh, well, there's a hidden condition. I got to erase it. And so you got to watch for that. But the point being is all of life, we're not in the real estate business. We're in the people business, and we've got to master our people skills. And the part of that people skills is I consider my hiring a tenant to be like hiring. I'm going through an interview process. So whether it's a tenant, realtor, I don't care. Anybody, everybody, somebody's going to be a private lender. Somebody's got money and they want to invest money with me. I'm going to interview them. Why? Because I made a mistake of not doing that one time. And you try to have a one-time learning. And this guy, sharp-looking black guy, well-groomed, drove a BMW, had all this kind of stuff. And it's like he had this money in an IRA. And I said, you sure 6 to 12 months is no problem? Oh, yeah, no problem. Well, he lost his job, making 6 figures. And then he thought he was going to go full-time in real estate. And, within 3 months early on, I need my $50,000 back. Well, dude, we got a contract and we covered this. And I say, I don't care. I want my money back, or I'm going to tell everybody that you're ripping me off, and I'm going to this and threat and all this. Yeah. So you have to learn how to spot those people early on, and that they'll lie to you. And you got to try to anticipate what's going to happen with different people. And even though you could use that money, the wrong lender or the wrong whatever the situation is going to cost you more, and that's why you have to have a second and third backup. And so that's why even like REIA, I was on the board and I was always, it's like, oh yeah, I know we got Sally, but let's make sure Julie's available too. And I know we got one person to, at the door, but let's have a backup. And we always were. It doesn't matter, contractor, realtor, whoever, whatever. Oh, I'm so sorry. My kid got sick, or cleaning. I mean, everything and anything. I have first string, second string. It's like the quarterback. You wouldn't have a team with a quarterback where you only got one quarterback because that quarterback gets hit.
Yeah, that's a little vital.
What are you going to do? So I've just learned mindset wise to treat my business like that all the time. So, and I want to make redundancy. Yes. Yes, with everything.
Yeah, and I think and what you were saying too about interviewing multiple contractors and different. I mean, that really like would you say that applies to just life in general? As even like the news you take in, or whatever you read, or whatever. Like get multiple opinions and figure out what the best is for you. Because it really comes down to you.
And
your mind.
It applies to every area of life. And it doesn't, if you're going to work out, you're going to have a fitness trainer. You can learn by interviewing 3 different people and everything. It's going to take a little time, and we're all tight on time and busy, but there's this little slight edge about always learning. And that's the mindset. It was the ABC, always be closing, but there's the ABL, always be learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, what you said you were in this mastermind for Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
Aside from that sounds really cool. What aside from that, what on the always be learning track.
Yes.
What's next? Like once you finish this thing, what like
right? Well, I always have multiple mentors in multiple areas, and so one of the things that's on my list is I'm going to fully immerse myself in Spanish. Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo está? Me llamo Marco. Despacio, por favor. Dueño y dueño. Enganche, por favor. Bueno. Yeah. Muy bueno. So basically in Texas, we have a large Hispanic population, and it's one of my favorite audiences to work with. And I've had very good success with them and being very hardworking. I mean, it's like anything. Human beings are human beings, and there's the reliable people and unreliable people. But I've been able to find within the Hispanic market some very good buyers who like to pay off their loan early, and they're looking for seller finance. And dueño de dueño is owner to owner, and so that's a fantastic niche for lower priced, affordable housing that does very well in San Antonio and related markets down the Rio Grande Valley and all that. So my goal is by next year at this time, I will be living outside the U.S. And I will be living part of the time either in Mexico, Central America, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Colombia. But I'll be fully immersed in speaking Spanish and the whole everything we've been doing right here. And a year from now, I want to be on my way to be able to do this whole interview in Spanish.
Wow.
At that level.
I was going to ask, like, you seem like a guy that does research on how to learn a language the fastest possible. And that sounds like that's your research taking you. It's like you got to be in it.
There's a free app called Duolingo. Free app. I have the app in the background because it's influencing my unconscious mind. I've been joining groups in these countries, and then there's expat groups, and there's different groups. So in Nicaragua, I found a school that you go, and I'm into like ecological type thing. So they got like a farm type thing, and they got beautiful scenery, and it's like $250 a week that includes your accommodation, your food, and 4 hours a day of classes and full immersion. So I'm looking at going for like 1 to 2 weeks. Well, I'm also, one of the things I preach and teach and live, buy everything wholesale. Anytime people say, I see you traveling all the time. How in the world do you manage to do that? Well, I'm passionate about it. So what are you passionate about? And study and learn. So I took a trip before the whole COVID thing to London, England. And most people say, well, yeah, that's going to cost you, what, $5,000, $7,000 or more? I say, yeah, especially got a woman double that, right? And I said, but I went, and there was an airline called Norwegian Airlines, and I found a flight from Boston to London for $400 round trip, ballpark.
Wow.
I did the entire trip, 15 days for $1,800.
Nice. You're my kind of traveler.
Well, so I
did the same thing in Hong Kong for about the same amount for like 12 days, like $1,200.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Food, airfare, hotel,
we're gonna have
everything.
To talk. But so one of my things I love to do is I love to travel. And there's a guy who's a local top note investor, and he was asking me about hot springs. And I love hot springs. I'm passionate. My life revolves around going and finding the next hot springs anywhere in the world. And there's these fantastic ones in Costa Rica. You can see the volcano in the distance, and it's like, so one of my highest things is how can I contribute and have fun, and both, and freedom. So back to the original question about becoming financially free, I recognized very early on that one of my highest values is freedom. And so having money gives you options. Getting educated gives you options. Getting a combination of education and financial freedom education. Now you understand, I only need because when you're in Dallas and you're young and you're stupid and you're trying to impress everybody. I had my Armani suit, and I got a job at a financial services company, and everybody had a luxury car, so I had to get my BMW. So between your Armani suit and your BMW working there, and you're only making this much, and you're spending this much, and it's so easy when you're in your 20s and you got to impress everybody
to make it, right?
And you got to have a luxury apartment, and everything is spend. And next thing I know, I was at like $8,000, $10,000 a month, and
that lifestyle creep.
The lifestyle creep, and then the income went away.
Yeah.
But the debt and the overhead doesn't go away. And I came that close to a bankruptcy, and I had a foreclosure on a property that was my first deal, that one of these guys, one of the smooth talking guys that comes and puts his arm around you and he says, oh, you're new. Oh, you know nothing. Perfect. Oh, you don't have an attorney or anybody on your team or advisors or anything like, oh, perfect. Oh, and you are hungry and motivated to do your first deal, and you know nothing. Perfect. But you got a job, you got credit, great.
Yeah.
I've got this piece of crap. I mean, this up-and-coming area opportunity in the hood. I mean, this up-and-coming area. And so he sold me in the 80s, my very first deal, on getting a loan on a property he probably paid $30 for. He sold it to me for $60. But back then it was easy to influence the right appraisers and all kind of things. That's why they passed all kind of laws. But the bottom line is and I had no money out of pocket in the deal, however he pulled the strings and stuff. But I bought this property, a fourplex, a duplex converted to a fourplex in the hood for $60,000. And on paper, it looked good on paper. This unit rents for $55 a week, and this unit for $65 a week, and this one for good luck. I learned basic Spanish quickly. Knock, knock, knock. Nobody's there. And I learned La Renta Mañana. And I come back mañana, which, la renta is the rent, and tomorrow. And I learned the other word that's involved with la renta mañana is called cerveza. Because there would be all these signs of empty cerveza bottles. They've been drinking the rent. And it's like as if they knew I was coming.
Yeah.
And I had hair when I started. Ha, ha, ha. And I said, talk about how to do everything wrong. Check the box. I've done everything wrong. Yeah. So I say to people all the time, you've got to be patient, but take action and be persistent. And the biggest mistake that people make is procrastinating and not getting started. The number one thing, if you're listening, you should find out where your local REIA group is. If you're listening and you're associated with this REIA here, the Inland Empire, what's the website for this group?
IEREIC.org.
Right.
Or just Google Inland Empire Real Estate Investment
and how much is it to come first time as a guest?
It's $25. Most of our meetings are $25.
All right.
Comes with food, 3 hours of good education.
Yeah.
And then the monthly fee is $25 a month, and you get into 12 events a month for free.
And I talked to a lady last night. Yeah. She spent $60,000 with some guru.
Yeah.
And the number one thing I'm trying to do all the time is say, don't spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, whatever. I had one lady, she was from California, and she had bought whatever platinum stroke your ego program, $100 grand in 2 years. She did one deal in San Antonio. She actually did one deal and made $40,000 on a $400,000 house. So that's a little skinny. But I mean, people paying this huge amounts of money because they just don't have any basic financial literacy, common sense. And the number one thing I say to people is get in a local REIA group with people who are doing deals and find out who the leaders are. Join, volunteer, get to know who the leaders, and the leaders often have these things called the meeting after the meeting.
Yep.
And the thing that changed my life is being a volunteer. And as a volunteer, you learn about the meeting after the meeting where the movers and shakers hang out and talk and they get to know you. And now you say, hey, Rick, I got this deal. And you say, yeah, I like those numbers. I like that deal. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Boom.
Exactly.
And it's like, it just is a momentum that happens when you're volunteer. Oh, let me look in the camera and say, there's a momentum that happens when you become a volunteer and people get to know you, and all of a sudden opportunities present themselves. And it's like all of a sudden this person now, over the last 3 months you've been volunteering, got to know that you're reliable. You got to know that you shows up. And they're actually, oh, well, I know somebody I can introduce you to who might be able to fund that. Might be a private lender, or it might be a hard money lender. So there's all these connections that happen because your mindset is focusing on building relationships. The business, and it doesn't matter if you're buying houses or you're buying notes or you're buying apartments, it's a build the relationship business opportunity.
Yeah, and like you said, that back scratching and going both ways. For the Firefest, for the boot camp, we did like a, when we first opened it up for registration, we did like a one night, kind of discount for everybody. And I had a few people come to me like 2 or 3 days later and was like, "Oh, can I get that discount?" And I was like, "No." That was for that night, and we pretty much sold out that night. I had to open up more spots. But there was one person in particular that came and asked, and she had been a volunteer. She had volunteered many times, and she's like, "Hey,
circumstances, blah blah blah."
Yeah, and I spent a lot of money on these courses and with people in the past, and I just didn't like them, or I didn't. So I was nervous, but can I still get the discount? I was like, you know what, for you,
right,
yeah, and you've put in the time, and
exactly,
for you, and then she was one of the ones that got a deal under contract. I think she got 2. So, that was it's like we help the people out that like you said, like the somebody that comes in and it's like, I want everything for $25. It's like, well, all right, pump the brakes a little bit. There's some trust going back because a lot of things that people are missing in the or the where to get the private money and good contractors.
Right.
And so that's like the thing.
That's gold.
Yeah. Like most people kind of hang on to that a little bit.
Of course.
They don't just say, oh yeah, call this guy.
Yeah. Well, but part of the educational process is this is a relationship business. And if you're going to get a good referral, we protect our referrals. And it's like, well, why don't you just give me, the thing that you sacrificed and built for every year of all this, people with this money no, that's private. I said, here's a hint. It's called a private lender. And this apartment complex is called a private equity. There's the word private in there for a reason, because it's not public, it's private. And so you have to get in the inner circle. Well, how do I get in the inner circle? Here's $25. No, it's not quite how it works. You have to earn your way in. Well, what do I got to do? Well, let's check the ego at the door, be a little humble and instead of arrogant, and be open-minded, and just come to a few meetings. And if it's right for you, after you check out a few meetings, volunteer and serve and focus on building the relationship through service, because that's how we got here. We got here because we went through a process and we paid certain dues and we paid certain prices and we earned our way to where we are today. And people just, well, can't I just pay $5 and find the shortcut? And it's like the whole thing of the discount thing. I like to say, well, you ever flown Southwest Airlines or any of these airlines like that, and they had this special and it ends at midnight? You ever called Southwest Airlines the next day and said, you know that the special discount that expired last night at midnight, I'd like that now.
Yeah.
Good luck.
They don't honor it.
Well, I like to use the versus the just no. I mean, there's the 4 personality quadrants, right? I suspect you lean a little bit toward the high D, decisive, driver, driven, abrupt, to the point. Sometimes,
most of the time,
just a tad. Yeah. So the challenge
depends on what time of day it is.
Yeah, the challenge is, as we're dealing with customers and sellers and different people, it's like, I hate this crap, but okay, I'm going to try to be flexible and be a chameleon. And it's like, well, and add in, and I found that it goes a little further if I can add in the Southwest Airlines story about the discount, and they go, oh, versus just like, no, there's no discount for you.
Yeah. And there's that analogy that always helps too. Like if you can come up with a good analogy for somebody, like it always, I think the biggest thing about Pete Fortunato is, he speaks in like parables, and it's, you think the more you listen to him, you start to speak Pete, kind of thing. But when you first listen to him, you're just like, what is he talking about?
What is he talking about? and people were commenting last night, they actually complimented me, said, you sound at times just like Pete or Jack or these different guys. You sound like them.
But you're speaking English.
Well, there's a gap. One person last night, they said, well, you think you might come in for his session there? Great. Well, maybe what we could do is we could have a debrief afterwards. You could explain to us what he said.
Yeah, right. A follow-up. How, speaking of Pete, you've obviously known Pete and seen him talk a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah.
What's your greatest lesson? And I know that's hard to.
That's hard because there's so many. Well, part of the thing is just going back to Pete's initial history, where what I see that he did is he was in Boston area. It's very expensive there, and there's a certain kind of clientele there. But he early on didn't have any money, started out very humble, but he just made a decision that he was going to get started and he was going to persist. And he literally said, here's what I'd like. Here's what I'd like to accomplish. And so he just kept getting no and no and no and no and no until he found somebody and said, well, we might be able to do that. And especially it helps when you're building a relationship and now somebody feels like they know and trust you and that you'll actually do what you say. So, but Pete is always looking at the situation and how the circumstances of the problem is an opportunity and that the solution's in the problem. And it's a whole different way of thinking. Yeah, the solution is in the problem. So it's like your problem is my opportunity.
The obstacle is the way.
Yeah, the obstacle is the way. And it's like they did a program with Bill Cook called What Box? What Box? And it's like the problem is we think there's a box, but we're putting a box on a situation that doesn't require a box. Like, what? And it's not that kind of stuff of level of thinking where it's like, no, there is no box. Well, yes, but no, that's a box that you created in your own mind that you put on this of all these restrictions and limitations that doesn't need to be there. It's like, what? Yeah. And so we're so programmed and conditioned to think poverty, to think lack, to think scarcity, to think competition, to think so to come into an environment where it's cooperation instead of competition. Like, wait. You're my competitor in this real estate business, but you're going to help me and teach me to be a better competitor with you? Well, yes and no, because, if we're really on the same page here together, helping each other, then basically what goes around comes around.
Exactly.
We understand these principles, and there's a prosperity level of thinking. There's an abundance, there's enough level of thinking. And it's like we in this business, especially getting the REIA group, you get established, you volunteer, you build, people get to know you. We all help each other to go to a next higher level. And that's the kind of philosophy that Bill Cook and that Pete and all these people teach. It's like, yeah, Pete, I mean, Pete's this genius. Pete's a legend. And it's like, I'm like, when people tell me they're hesitating about finding the money to come, I'm like, I'm going to jump on a freaking plane and fly halfway across the country. And you live 15, 30 minutes away and you're debating. Oh, yeah, but I understand he's advanced and I'm brand new and I might not be able to understand what he said. For the first 5 years, I didn't understand, but I didn't care. I just like, I'm sitting at the feet of genius, and it's like, I'm going to get whatever I can.
Yeah, you're going to get something.
Oh,
And,
my gosh.
You know, it's not like it's, you know, there's definitely, and there's, how many times have you seen Pete talk?
Oh, I'm going to guess 20, if not more.
And
I mean,
still,
every time.
You know.
Well, and here's the crazy thing. You know, it's like when you see a movie or read a book or anything like that. And I think Dr. Zhivago was one of those classic movies that was like this. And you go there and you're at the movie for the third time and you go, did they revise this movie? I mean,
I never noticed that.
There's a whole section of this movie that I don't remember being there before. Well, you're in a different place.
Exactly.
And what you bring to the table is different, where you can now see and hear and feel and experience something you weren't ready for. Your capacity wasn't there before. And as much as Pete is fantastic and everything with that, the caliber of people that Pete attract. I remember when I first started with his mentor, Jack Miller, John Schaub, and there's Pete Fortunato, there's Jimmy Napier. Jimmy was my biggest because Jimmy was this good old boy from Chippewa, Florida, that talked sort of like this, and he thought he was stupid or something like that, and he was dumb as a fox. And he'd take out his calculator and he'd punch certain numbers in there and say, now, if I was fixing to pay that much, this computer here said that'd be an error. And he had this down, all shucks, sense of humor and everything else. And it's like, man, I mean, because I would go to Jack and I'd be like, my eyes would like cross and smoke would come out. And I'm like going, what happened here? I mean, I don't know, you know? And a lot of these guys just would get advanced for me, but I just knew I needed to keep coming. And Jack, the last 2 years of his life, I think he had 24 sessions. I attended 24 sessions.
wow.
I was there every time because I knew there's never going to be another Jack. As I hold Pete in the same regard. We're all getting older. Pete's not going to be here forever. And the number one thing I hear from people all the time is, man, I sure wish I could have heard Jack in person. I wish I could have been there. I wish I would have known. I'm telling you right now that the caliber of a Jack Miller is Pete Fortunato. And whatever you got to do, you should be there. And the people that you'll be around, I remember I was like young in my 20s and 30s, and I'm looking around. It's like everybody's in their 50s and 60s. And I go, this is not a newbie crowd. These are the people with the money.
Yeah.
And it was the opposite. It was the opposite of all the guru hype and the new and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there, and then I'd meet somebody every once in a while, like someone like you, and then I'd go and say, oh, your father or your father-in-law or somebody who's older told you to come. And that's how you knew about it. Because most young people, like, when it comes to real wealth, real wisdom, the advanced stuff, it's like we're like, I'm just trying to get this first deal here.
Yeah, and these guys aren't, you know, they're not out making TikTok clips.
Oh,
and,
no,
Instagram shorts and all that, or YouTube shorts. And like, they're, you know, Pete's not, you know, you can barely find him on.
Oh, yeah.
On, you know, there's a couple interviews maybe of, you know, and floating around on YouTube.
Well, I think one of them is from this group here.
Yeah, from one we did a few years ago for the, you know, doing the Zoom days, and there's like one or two more. You know, and that's really it.
Yeah.
And you know, so and what you're saying, but and it's not, you know, about not being around forever. You know, he was supposed to come out in March, and originally we had him scheduled for March, and then he, you know, had emergency heart surgery,
Right.
And you know, and we pushed it back to August. So it was like, you know, we were all really nervous, you know, for him, obviously. And I mean, thankfully, he made a very speedy recovery.
Oh, he's rather stubborn, bullheaded in that area. And like, he was literally, I was with Bill Tan, I was on a Zoom with him, and, you know, or somebody, I think it was one with Bill Cook was supposed to be filling in for him or something. And Pete took over like he does. So, but I mean, again, you know, here he's having this major heart surgery, and it's like in 24, 48, 72 hours, whatever it was, some amazingly short period of time. He's there and we're all worn out and like, can we go to sleep now, Pete? Well, if anybody's still around, I'll stay here till 2 in the morning.
Yeah, then like 3 weeks later, I think him and John Schaub they did their class in Tampa. Like, 3 weeks after a quadruple bypass or something like that.
It's crazy, crazy stuff.
Yeah, the guy's a machine. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he's going to be out here the last weekend in August. If you want to check that out, it's peter.iereic.org. Again, that's peter.iereic.org. And members get a pretty decent discount. I think they get $100 off tickets. So, so you're going to fly out?
Well, probably. Typically when it's hot in Texas, like 100 degrees every day, starting in like June, July, and August, I'm looking for any excuse to be doing deals in the Pacific Northwest, in the Midwest, and near the Great Lakes, where there's fishing, where there's hiking, where there's camping, where I can be outdoors in nature and enjoying delicious seafood and the combination stuff like that, for a business purpose, tax deductible reason.
Of course, any reason to get out is always write it off even better.
Yeah. So I'd love to come back and we threw around some ideas last night and want to explore that some more. And
absolutely.
So
absolutely. We got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
I like to, when we look at the dreamers, the starters, the enders, the builders. Looking in the market right now, there's obviously there's been some headwinds, the debt ceiling thing and all that's going on. Is that, I feel like this happens every 2-3 years now where the debt ceiling, oh my God, they're going to shut down the country and, with the debt ceiling is like, what do you say to that? Like, is that like a legitimate thing, or is it just some fluff in the news?
I just laugh.
Is it changing your
it's the
strategies
latest,
at all? Or?
It's the latest distraction, and I was like, come on, I intentionally don't have a TV. I don't watch the media or pay attention to the media because it's gotten so bad. It's all propaganda and lies and hype and everything like that. And there's a few sources in the real estate space. There's like Housing Wire or whatever that typically I would post in my Facebook feed that would have some good information. But I even saw something with that it's like it got to political spin. The political spin is creeping in everywhere. And it's like everything's political spin. It's like, gag, tired of it. So, but an example of all this kind of stuff is like, okay, there's some crazy people and laws in California. How can the problem be the solution? So it's like in Washington State, did you know you can't door knock or do a letter or call or anybody to somebody in foreclosure? It's a felony.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, you cannot contact, there's a state law in the state of Washington that you cannot contact somebody in foreclosure to attempt to help them because you might be buying and stealing their house and be a capitalist making a profit. So that problem is an opportunity because it scares the bejeevers, because naturally when they're teaching the wholesaling class, this is one of the things they cover and teach.
Don't do it.
And it scares, it scares everybody. However, there's always a provision in the law, if you actually read the law. What a concept. Like people are scared of subject 2. We'll cover that in just a moment. And the Garden St. Germain and all that kind of stuff. But I say to people all the time, did anybody stop and read the law? Well, no. But I listen to
people
media.
Who passed it didn't even probably read the whole thing.
Right. I mean, I listen to media hype and I'm scared. It's like, well, in Washington State, somebody who has their real estate license, if they comply with certain steps where you're entering into a relationship where it's a fiduciary, where you have to represent and protect the interest of the seller. So if I hire the right real estate agent and work through that agent and the right agent gives the proper disclosures, that agent with the disclosures can contact people in pre-foreclosure and then can come and interact with them and say, well, let's discuss your options. One would be keep your house and see if we could do a loan modification or forbearance agreement or stuff. I mean, because the number one thing you talk to people in foreclosure, I do door knocking, I'll do all this kind of stuff. I say, I suspect that nobody's talked to you about your options, have they? Well, no. Would you like to hear about your options? Well, yeah. Well, I've got this piece of paper I can just give you and leave behind, or we could come in right now and talk about it. Well, I got a few minutes. Come on in. And next thing you know, I'm buying their house, So, but in certain states where it's a problem because of the law, that then reduces the competition. So people who are willing to study and learn the law and comply with the law have a competitive advantage over the others that don't.
Yeah.
So I'm like, the weather's beautiful. Shh, don't tell California people. It rains all the time. It's terrible. It's gloomy. It's dark. It's raining. You don't want to go there. But people like me, we are willing to risk this and take a chance July, June, August, in the summertime and go there and enjoy certain things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like the wine and the wineries and the berries and the, all the stuff. So if I can combine that with doing a real estate deal there, so that's the way my mindset's at now. And so California's also got some opportunities like that too. We'll talk about when I come back.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like, it's crazy. Like we have these, overbearing in a lot of ways, laws.
Oh yeah.
On real estate, and either investors or landlords
Right.
or whatever, housing providers and
Exactly.
and residents and rules and all that go with it.
Yeah.
But then we now have some of the most relaxed, ADU laws in the country,
Right.
where it's like they just, it's funny because I a lot of investors are, generally like, on the right side of things in
Right.
politics. And I think when Newsom did the ADU stuff, everyone was like,
Is this for real?
do we hate him? Like, do like,
Yeah, well,
because normally,
and
it's
for those people who don't know what an ADU is, it's
Yeah.
an additional dwelling unit. ADU is additional dwelling unit, and the great thing is, you sometimes can find space or add space that might be like a storage building or something like that in the backyard, and utilize that space to generate additional revenue, like a short-term rental, like a Airbnb or VRBO and stuff like that, and then greatly increase the value and put something in there that's relatively inexpensive. And so that's a little niche gold mine opportunity where, so that's the thing I say. How can you see, there's a housing shortage, there's homeless people, there's all that kind of stuff. Okay, how is that an opportunity to make more money, be successful? But the mindset is do good and do well. Do both. Not one or the other. And people, you're a greedy capitalist, you're a landlord, you're a terrible person. We're a housing provider. And if you get educated about that, you'd be surprised to how much good we do in the community because we're taking areas that are running down and we're turning properties around and increasing the tax. There's so much good that investors do, but investors really need to get better at representing themselves
Absolutely.
in that way, in that area.
Yeah. And we're working on a more like a statewide organization to try and
which would be a good thing.
Be more of that outreach type
Yeah.
of stuff more than just this club's focused on education and networking and for investors.
Yeah.
But there definitely needs to be like that more outreach.
Yeah.
And not just for the investors.
Right.
Profit side of things, but like the actual community and like everything you just said.
Right.
So,
right. Well, the last
and that's very tough.
The last 60-second little snippet I'd like to throw in is
sure.
like we're in the perfect storm right now because property values have gone up in the last 5 to 7 years. Interest rates have gone way down. Now interest rates have gone up, and it's created the perfect storm, perfect opportunity for creative finance, seller finance. So hopefully you'll have a chance. I'll come back and we'll talk in more depth. And I got
absolutely.
instead of 1 hour, I've got like 2 days.
Yeah.
But in depth about how you can do things with lease options with little or no money very creatively and solve problems. How you can do subject to, how you can combine different strategies of a lease option with a subject to, with a private lender, with all these different things, seller finance. I mean, I could tell stories, as you can imagine, about how I bought a house, took over a $50,000 first lien, got the seller to take back a second lien for $10,000 at 0%, no payments for 5 years, and I got a private lender to fund the whole deal, to give me the $10,000 to give to the seller, so we got cash at closing. I had zero money in the deal. I had a first, second, third position, but the third was a wrap, so protect the private lender. And I bought all that for about $70, sold it 5 years later for $170, made $100,000 tax free because I understood Section 121 of the IRS tax code. So those are the kind of things I'm looking forward to have a chance to get into in more detail coming back.
Absolutely. We're definitely going to have you back. You both on the show and the club, and I think we're talking about doing a class here in the next few months.
Right.
We'll get it on the schedule, so definitely keep an eye out. What like you said, we're in this perfect storm, especially for sub 2 and creative stuff. What for the people, would you advise somebody to go like it was their first deal, or as their like if they were newer, like should they would subject to be like you maybe want to like stick to like just what would you tell somebody? Like, is it a great place to start? Like,
can do a subject to, and a lot of times subject to are conjunction with a foreclosure. And so basically I'm stopping a foreclosure, but you have to know all the steps. And so I recommend either A, get the correct education, not expensive guru education, get an education at your local REIA, like a group like this, and or find people in the local REIA who, I mean, literally people can stand up. There's like haves and wants, and there's different, like we're about to go have a fantastic lunch meeting. It's the exchanger meeting, and just, build your life as best you can around every one of these meetings you can, and then come to the meeting and speak up. And if anybody got a question, or say, yes, I'm looking for somebody who's experienced and expertise on subject to that I could talk to for 5 minutes that could help guide me. And then, of course, there's some videos and some different courses and things like that. But it's like you make a decision, I'm going to become very knowledgeable about subject to. I'm going to ask other people who are doing it, how did you get there? If I bring you a deal, would you joint venture with me, or what? Could I assign it to you?
Absolutely.
And I right now help people myself who've got a subject to deal, and I say, don't even go too far down because I don't want you to screw it up. Bring me in early on, and then I'll come and I'll negotiate with my years of experience, and I'll bring the structuring with my years of experience. But let somebody with experience be part of your team and your mindset, and you just find it and bring it to the right person. But build those relationships. Everything's building a relationship, and then as a result of that, I'll pay something like a $5,000 or $10,000. These are Texas prices.
Yeah.
It's more in California, but I'll gladly pay somebody $5,000 or $10,000. I'm picking up a $25,000, $50,000 equity, and I'll say to them, now let's do a couple of these together. Let's build where you got cash reserves, because you should not do a subject to unless you have cash reserves, or rehab, or landlord, or any of that kind of stuff. But the ideal situation is, we can do $200,000 houses in Texas. Let's buy it, turn right around, and seller finance it, and get $20,000 down.
Yeah.
Now it's different than being a landlord, and with the $20,000 down, it's an installment sale, so there's tax advantages to that. But literally, you could do 12 houses in 12 months, and if you could hit $500 a month cash flow, and people say, well, how does that work? 3% loan you take subject to, even like a VA loan where they got zero down, zero in it, $200,000 house, 3% loan, resell it at 6%. 6% is even below the banks, but there's demand, and there's people who got $20,000 down. And so I get $20,000 down, and I'll make sure I have the right attorneys and everything's done correctly, legally. But the bottom line is, buy it, turn right around, resell it, and now I create money on the front end, money every month, money on the back end, depending on how the whole thing goes. But these are the kind of things I'm going to be coming back and teaching. And you could like to do 12 deals and replace your job in a year.
Yeah. And do you like, I know kind of point of contention in the sub 2 resale world is do you wrap it and stay in it? And
yes.
Just protect the seller?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because
and why do you do that?
What's that?
Why do you do that? You were about to say
the reason why I do that is because, number one, things happen. People have divorces, people lose their jobs, bad things happen to good people, and I don't want to have it where it's just going to go back to the seller so you got a distressed buyer and you got a distressed seller, and now they're going to try to, two distressed people. It's like a bad marriage,
Yeah.
And so basically I want to stay in there so that if things go south, I can come in and fix it and save it. And oftentimes the buyer who originally did it, they literally will walk away and just give me the house. And, they gave me the down payment or whatever. I might give them, well, here's $5,000 to move away, leaving the house in perfect condition. But I'm a control freak. I think you listen to Pete, you listen to any of us, we're all control freaks. But so it's both protecting them and ourselves, because there's always the attorneys are being cranked out of these universities looking for anybody something to sow. So you always want to do everything the right way and fair and honest and protect people with integrity. And so you have the right attorney. And so one of the things is I've seen people do it where they bought the property, they got the deed, but the person had no recourse. And so done correctly, and you can show in case there's a problem. Nope, we wrapped it, and so therefore, worst case, if it didn't get paid, they come back and foreclose and take control of that property. So you always want to do things the correct and legal way. Make sure you have the right professionals on your team.
Exactly. And what's your if you don't mind sharing it, what's like maybe top one or two like ways to find subject to deals? Like,
Right.
Does it just fall in your lap because you're you, or like
Yeah.
what do you do?
So the number one thing is back to what I talked about last night. I've been talking about right here. It's building that network of relationships. And it's amazing to me how often I'll say to newer people, I say, well, how big is your network? And they look at me like with this blank stare and they go, 3 people. Wait. Did you go to high school? Yeah. Did you meet anybody? Yeah. Did you go to college at all? Well, I dropped out, but yeah. Did you ever have a girlfriend? Did you ever have, I mean, certainly you know more than 3 people. Oh, yeah, I know 30. No. Most people know somewhere between 100 and 250. And if you're active on Facebook, I mean, you could get up to 5,000 pretty quick. Now, you may not know everybody well, but I say to people all the time, the leverage of technology and social media, and I tell people all the time, just post this free ad on your Facebook page. Oh, I couldn't do that. Somebody might think I'm a greedy capitalist and investor trying to make money or something like that. Horrific, taking advantage of. So I've got people I train in basic, simple stuff, and I say, here's an example of a Facebook ad. Here's an example of free. Here's an example free. Just post this in here. And if you want, then I can do a Zoom and we can go more in depth the different things you can do and all the different ways I've done this. But it's simple to go ahead and get the word out. And there's groups. And one of the things I did, not that many years ago, is I had somebody I was training and he was complaining that he wasn't doing anything. And I said, here, we're on lunch break. We're at McDonald's with the Wi-Fi. And he's got to go back to lunch minute. I said, watch this. Now, I actually had a house that had high grass. And the city had said, hey, you got to cut this high grass. So they're going to fine you $250 crazy something. So I was, and the
like 1,000 here.
Yeah, well, it's California pricing, But the point being was that I could get it cut for maybe $25 to $50, but it was gotten a little high. So, and I needed it done now. So I went to, at that time, now we got Facebook Marketplace, but back then I did Craigslist. I just went in Craigslist. I found a subgroup on Craigslist, and I posted in this group. It might have been Facebook, because I've done this a couple times now. But I posted in there, and I said, need a yard cut now immediately. I'm going to pay a big fine to the city for code enforcement. I will pay above average, but I need to hear from you right now. I need to know you're reliable. The last guy flaked out, didn't do it. That's why I'm here. And so text me and let's talk. And I said, watch, tap, send. Within 5 minutes, I had like 5 phone calls. And I'm on the phone and I'm saying to that person, tell me, how long you been doing this? About 5 years. Good. That's about what I'm looking for. Somebody's got some experience. And about how many customers you got? About 100. Okay, that sounds fine. And of those 100 customers, how many are 55 plus? What? Yeah, how many are seniors or older? Well, geez, maybe 10, 15%. Okay. And how old is your oldest one? Geez, my oldest one, I think he's like 92. Really, 92. And does he own one house or more than one house? Oh, no, he owns more than one house. Oh, really? And 92, how's his health? Oh, he's in hospice. He's 92 in hospice, and you have a relationship with him cutting his yard. Well, yeah, matter of fact, he offered to sell me a house. Really? Yeah, he wants to sell his affairs. And what did he offer to sell a house for? $40,000. What do you think the house is worth? $150,000. Why didn't you buy it? I don't have the money. Needs repairs, 20, 30. Okay. Well, and what do you do in the off season when you're not cutting grass when it gets slow? Well, my dad, he does drywall and sheetrock and stuff like that, and I help him out with that. Oh yeah. Does this house need any of that? Oh yeah. Well, what if you could refer me to the owner and I'd pay you a referral fee for introducing me? Yeah, I could do that. Wow. How much? 500 to 1,000. Okay. And what if I could give your dad and you first shot at doing the sheetrock and drywall in this house? Oh, you'll love that. That might be another 10, 15,000 or more. Yeah. Well, yeah. Great. You interested? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I bought that house. Now, I didn't get it for 40 like he was saying. I paid 60, but it was a $150,000 house. And it had foundation problems and other issues. But big picture, in 5 minutes, boom, and I did a leverage of posting an ad in a niche area, and I've got all different ways of doing this. I got it right now. His family's from Belize. He posted in this Facebook group, and so a lady from Belize, responded, and Belize is like a town versus an entire country. Yeah. So this lady checked out with his mom, and everybody knows everybody, and so we're working to negotiate a possible subject to on a house in Belize that the loan's 88 Belizean, 44 US, and it's supposedly worth 300. And this just came, he just posted Facebook ad. He said, and then today he said, oh, now I did another thing and I got that one lead. It's like 3 more leads. So, wow, with technology today, I get probably most of my leads through referrals and Facebook referrals. I mean, I could spend 10 minutes talking about 10 different examples of 10 different deals where most people, I mean, like there's a guy here last night and he's a wholesaler. I'm always looking for every wholesaler to talk to. And I say, what do you do with the deals that don't work for all cash for wholesale? I just throw them away.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, because they don't. Yeah, exactly.
Throw them my way. So I'm just constantly leveraging everybody else's leads.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could pull out my phone and show you one right now. Somebody said, would you buy in such and such Jamestown, I think it's North Dakota. This lady's in pre-foreclosure. She moved to Virginia to be with her family. And there's a tenant there. She's 8,000 behind. It'll be 8,000 to make it good. And the loan balance is 97. It's at like 3.5%. I'll take all the 3 and 3.5% money I can and then resell and wrap it at twice. I just talking last night to somebody. I said, "Could you buy a house for $200,000, sell it for $200,000, make any money?" They go, "What? How would you do that?" Well, are there any veterans out there that are getting VA loans? Yeah. Are there any veterans that maybe that was in a not as hot area and it was been flat and they bought in the last year or two and they bought and they got no skin in the game and now it's worth $200,000, but the realtor doesn't know what to do, and the new interest rate, the payments are higher and. So I've got one right now like that I found through Facebook. The mom was posting for the son, and it's a brand new, beautiful house that everybody would want to be in, and the loan's at about 3.5%. And I say, if you take a 3% $200,000 loan and you sell it for $300,000 or $600,000, I mean, you go $200,000 to $200,000, but 3 to 6, that 3% is 6,000 years, $500 a month cash flow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boom.
Absolutely. And you did that with.
Well, and people say, "Where's your money?" I say, "See this ear? See this ear? It's between these two ears. There's my money, my creativity, my imagination, my willing to be a problem solver." And that's what Pete teaches. And that's why I tell people all the time, go hear Pete.
Yeah. And the reason I ask you that question too is because I think, a lot of people listening and because I feel like a lot of the gurus and or just like stuff you see on YouTube, I mean, they're not all of it. There's, but a lot of it is like, the typical answer you would expect is, well, go pull a list and look for people that are, high equity or low equity, just bought it, because all that stuff's public data.
Right.
And I'm sure that works too.
That can work, and here's the problem.
You're saying, like, what I'm hearing is pick up the phone.
Well, the problem with all this list stuff is you got so many gurus on YouTube now all promoting the exact same thing, exact same list, that I had a guy in Tampa, Florida I worked with, and he said he was spending $10,000 a month, and $5,000 was on pay-per-click, and he was getting nothing. $5,000 was a high equity list of 12,000 he was mailing to. Now, he got a few calls, but it's like, pick a number, get in line. You and the other 5 guys who sent me the same message to the same list from the same gurus and everything else. So that's where the most competition is. So I'm like, do you do what all the newbies do? No, I do the opposite. And Pete, if you ask Pete, what list do you mail to? Pete would break out laughing like that, right? Exactly. All of us who've got experience, and then Pete doesn't do technology, so I'm sort of bridge the gap in between.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot actually. Like you're using Facebook as a tool.
Exactly.
To get you're not just combing Facebook and like messaging your entire and then like trying to have this conversation. Like as soon as I think the coolest thing you do and like the takeaway is like you use those tools and then you get on the phone, like you have the conversations with people. Like I've never heard you say, in the short term time I've known you, I've never heard you say, let's start texting them and figure it out. Like you're like, as soon as you get that contact, get on the phone and start asking questions.
I'm glad you brought that up, because here's what I will say, because people say, well, I tried calling, they didn't respond. Then I'll say, well, having called them, now text them. And they'll say, well, do I call and say I want to buy your house? No, I don't say that. No. Here's what I say. Hi.
How's your day?
Is this Rich? I was wondering if you could help me. Now, if somebody left you a message about helping them, wouldn't you be curious? I say, use the curiosity approach. Don't just, as a training I took, there's a thing called the Sandler selling system. It was a consultative type selling, and they had a thing they say, don't spill your candy in the lobby, which basically does blah, blah, blah. Don't give everything away. Have some mystery. And so one of my favorite things is to say along the lines of, I was talking to a neighbor who said that maybe you might be looking to do something with your house. Maybe I can help. So then, and I leave this as a note. I mean, I do it all kind of different ways. And then somebody says, guess what? The number one response I get to that message, the number one is, "What's your neighbor and what did they say?"
Well,
My neighbors are talking to gossiping about what they say. And it's like, well, how do you handle that? All these newbies, oh my gosh, how do you handle that? Some person was on the street, and then I asked them, "You live in the neighborhood?" And I said, "You know anything about that house?" And they said, "I think they're looking to do something with it." So I called.
Yeah.
"Oh, well, how'd you get my number?" "Well, it's in public record. I just tapped in, and there it was." And I thought, well, let me call this person. "Are you rich?" "Yeah." And
yeah, own it.
Yeah.
Own it. Like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, well, I don't know." Like tell them like, this is what I do. I track people down.
Well, and again, there's a whole range. Anything is better than nothing. People say, well, should I leave this flyer that says I buy houses? That's better than not leaving it.
Yeah.
And what I prefer, instead of telling and advertising right up front, I buy houses, because they had 5 other people like you that were already there that they said, my house is not for sale, go away, leave me alone. All that kind of stuff. And they might use the F word, like F you, about buying their house. And the bottom line is, I want to be a little different. I want to be a little bit creative. I want to be a little fun. I want to curiosity, intrigue. So it's like they'll say, "Are you calling to buy my house?" I'll say, "Oh, well, is your house for sale? I didn't see a sign." "Well, why are you calling me then?" "Well, I didn't call you. You called me off my note that I left." "Oh, I guess, yeah. Okay. Well, what are you calling me for?" "Well, I happened to go by, and it's a nice neighborhood and nice house, and the grass seemed high, and I was wondering if you need any help." "What, are you going to come cut my grass?" "Well, you might be a senior and might not be able to afford it, and the city's going to come and get all these fines and cause a problem. And yeah, I know there's organizations that help seniors, and maybe you could use some help." "What?"
Yeah.
And there's people out there that are like shut-ins, and it's like they're a little hostile and they're a little scared and they're a little defensive and all this kind of stuff, and you just can't take it personally. You just got to have the right smiling. I mean, I have like a mirror with that says smile on it. You got to be smiling in the phone and friendly and having fun and not worry about it. But people are like all freaked out. "Oh, what if they shoot me over the phone?"
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. But people have these hyper fears in their head about this terrible thing is going to happen. It's a phone call. Where's this? Hang up.
Yeah, it's just coffee. It's not marriage.
Yeah.
That's what we
Or you get, "Oh, sorry, I think I might have got the wrong number." You hang up. I mean, it's like, but people have all this crap blown up in their head and make it so much more complicated. And it's like, people say, "Oh, I can't make any phone calls. I don't know what to say." How about you say hi? Can you do that? What would you, if you were a normal human being and they were a normal human being and you're going to engage somebody in a normal conversation that you met in person over the phone, what would be your opening statement? Hi, hello, how are you? Is now a good time? And just be normal and human and just engage in a conversation. And is now a good time? Looks like you have a house, and can I ask you about it? And something like that. I mean, most of the time I say people start out and screw up on full retail price houses. You got nothing to lose. Just practice screwing up on purpose.
Yeah. And it's
purpose.
It's going to happen. You're going to mess up.
Well,
and I mean, what's going to separate, you from the pack is like, if you learn from it.
Right.
And you fail forward.
Exactly.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's okay. There's plenty of other people to call.
Well, if you study everybody who's ever succeeded, they failed their way to success. Michael Jordan and Babe Ruth, the strikeout, and on and on and on. How you succeed is through failure, but you learn. And I say to people all the time, you got kids? Yeah. Okay, your kids ride a bike or walk? Yeah. Okay, did they fall down the first time? Oh, yeah. So you grabbed them and said, "That's it, kid. You had one time, one chance to learn how to walk. You fell down. Never again."
I'm selling the bike.
That's it. Yeah. And it's like, no, that child's going to get up and walk and ride the bike, and you're going to keep doing it until you get it. But you might skin your knee and things, but
Exactly.
Don't have them learn to ride the bike at the top of the stairs or the hill or whatever, but it's common sense. I mean, and it's amazing.
That works too sometimes.
What's that?
That works too sometimes. I remember learning to snowboard, and my friend just was like, "Yeah, we're just going to go to the top."
Oh.
Let me go down the bunny slope one time, and then he took me to the top of the mountain. I was like, "All right, well, I guess I'm getting down one way or the other."
Yeah. I remember one time the triple black diamond, whatever, for skiing, and everything was all ice and moguls, and I'm like trying to slide down. I didn't dare get up on my skis and like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, okay, let me just see if I can survive on my butt and just not lose my skis going down the hill, and let me just try to go from mogul to mogul and just try to get through this and never do this again.
No.
It was crazy.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Funny. Well,
It's been a pleasure.
yeah, it's been,
We could go on for hours.
I'm sure we could. Just leave it rolling. But we do have exchangers starting in
a few minutes,
about a half an hour here. So I need to get going so we can get the system all set up for that. If you're, I know you haven't been to an exchanger meeting yet, but you're going to be here pretty quick. So we do every Thursday at 12 o'clock, 12 to 2. We do it here in the clubhouse in Riverside and also on Zoom. So it's a big deal-making meeting. We all bring real estate stuff, money, things to trade, and we just make some deals. So if you're looking for that, just come on out. And obviously, we're going to have Mark back here, either do a class in the future or, back on the show.
Happy to help any way I can. Can I leave my number just in case anyone wants to do a Texas deal? That was my next question was, how do people get a hold of you, Mark? Or if they want to find out more about you, or you online? Or the simplest, easiest way, well, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on all those type of things, but I just tell people, just pick up the phone and send me a text. Just text me and tell me where, because I just got one today. I've got a meetup group in San Antonio on travel, and he said, yeah, your meetup group. I got 20 meetup groups coast to coast all over, and I had to all go say, which one on what subject. But so just text me, but somebody say, hi, is this Mark? That's it. Well, you might need,
maybe.
Yeah, you might need to say, I heard you on that podcast in California, whatever. Give me some clue, like maybe your name, your location, and what you're interested in, how, and I'll get back to you. I get back to everybody, and I'm always focused on, okay, what do you want? What do you need? How can I help? And the goal is, let's do business. Let's do a deal. Let's make some money.
Absolutely. So if they wanted to, how would they get hold of you?
Area code, this is a Houston number. I lived in Houston for a long time with the Real Estate Investment Club there, but 832-766-6997. That's 832-766-6997. And probably about a third of my deals, of over 300 deals, about 100 came from people who brought me something and we worked something out.
Absolutely. Well, it's been great having you, Mark. Yeah. We're going to stop there. My name's Rich Rice again, your host, and this has been our FIREchat podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.